Bayou Bets for a Thursday, September the 21st, 2023. It's a special show today. Why? Because we have sports betting director Thomas Casale with us, his first full show on with us. And what's going on?
Not too much, Jim. I got to say, this is an honor. I was reading through Jim's best bets piece over on bet.NOLA.com. 8-2 the first couple of weeks of the NFL season. I mean, CBS had Jimmy the Greek. What do we got? We got Jimmy the Cajun.
I'm not quite I'm a Yat. We call me Jimmy the Yat.
Jimmy the Yat. I love it.
That'll work. But we are going to have fun today. We have plenty to talk about. We have we're going to spend some time later on big bucks. We're going to but before we get to all that, of course, we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints playing in Green Bay on a short week. What do we think about them being an underdogs for the first time this season? LSU set to play a familiar Arkansas team, KJ Jefferson at quarterback. We're going to see what we think about LSU being a huge favorite, 17.5 points coming into this show. We'll talk about that a little bit. It's a high-profile Saturday in college football. Plenty of big games to talk about. I am really looking forward to the Saturday. And then Thomas and Gabe are leading big bucks. We'll see how that's going. We'll talk about this week's picks. And we'll tell you why I'm 3-2 and not 4-1 in big bucks, because I'm a lazy SOB. But that's another story coming up towards the end of the show. We're going to get to it. Let's start off, Thomas, with the New Orleans Saints. And, they're set to play another home opener, third straight. This time it's the Green Bay Packers home opener. The Packers are now a 1.5 favorite. That has dropped. We talked about it in pre-production. A 1.5 at our Caesars Sportsbook, which is the official odds partner of bet.NOLA.com.
Yeah, and this game is pretty interesting to me, Jim. From the betting splits that I trust, there's a lot of betting splits out there. Some, are useless, but the ones that I trust, you're seeing a lot of bets come in on the Packers. Yet the line has dropped towards the Saints. And I talked to a guy I know in the desert. We'll call him Jimmy the Nose. Jimmy the Nose says they're not. Some of the syndicates aren't buying Green Bay. They got that week 1 win against the Bears, but he told me wrong team favored. The Saints should be a couple point favorites in this game.
I think someone wrote that somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I read it.
Who might have wrote that? Look, I've been called Derry Downer many times in my career because people just don't like it when you bet against their team. In this case, I'm not betting against the Saints. I think that Green Bay showed last week. I think Atlanta's highly overrated. So if you're going by anything that happened last week, and for Green Bay to allow that big, they were down. Green Bay was up 12 in the fourth quarter. They allow a big comeback by the Falcons. To me, that showed a lot about the Green Bay defense. Is Jordan Love ready for prime time? This isn't a prime time game, but it might as well be for Saints fans. And you look at these numbers, and Thomas, as well as the Saints defenses play, they're going to make it tough on Jordan Love this weekend. 4th in overall defense, 7th in pass defense. The Saints offense has been playing pretty well as well.
No, it has. And Jim, long before I got this job, I bet the Saints to win the NFC. And one of the things I do in the offseason is I look at teams that had quarterback issues. How is their defense, right? Last year, the Saints ranked top 10 in total and scoring defense, playing backup quarterbacks for most of the year. And now you're seeing that defense when they actually have an offense that can get first downs. I think this is one of the top units in the league. That's where I think they're going to win this game. I like the way they're playing offense. Let's not turn the ball over. If we have to punt, we'll punt. We'll try for some big plays. Like to see the offensive line play a little bit better, like you've mentioned. But overall, I like the makeup of this Saints team.
And we are going to take comments and questions throughout the show, even if they don't have to do with necessarily the topic that we're on at the current time, which is the case for both of these comments that I have on the screen right now. You know what? I'll show him. Gabriel wants to know he has to drop one. Khalil Herbert, Josh Kelly, or A.J. Dillon in a half-point PPR. Which running back would you drop, Thomas? I think my pick in this case, man, that's a tough one. I would, even though Austin Eckler's hurt, I would probably say Kelly, but that's a tough choice.
Yeah, Kelly or Herbert for me. Listen, I'm going to die on the A.J. Dillon hill. I think I think I've started him every week in fantasy for 3 years, so I can get those 6 points he usually gets. But the listen, Aaron Jones has battled injuries in the past. They don't really use Dillon like him, and we'll talk about that in this game too, how Aaron Jones is so important. But yeah, I kind of lean probably Kelly too.
It's a tough one again because Austin Eckler's hurt. He's had a history of injuries. So would not surprise if he comes back and gets dinged up again, and then they got to go to Kelly. I'm just not a fan of the Chargers. Anyone who's listened to me for longer than 5 minutes knows what I think about Brandon Staley, and that's not a whole lot. And I just don't think the Chargers are that good. And that, that goes. We're not going to do a whole big NFL show. We'll do that tomorrow in Datitude. But I think the Vikings are going to beat the Chargers this weekend. Another case of, well, they can't lose again. Yes, they can. Anyway, someone's got to win. They're both 0-2 in that game, Vikings and Chargers. And we'll touch on the Giants and Niners tonight in a little bit, but I'm not finished quite with the Saints and Packers. Another reason, Thomas, why I like the Saints, and I know early rankings don't mean a whole lot, but to me, when you look at these numbers, the Saints are 10th in overall offense, 4th in total defense against the Packers, who have struggled to do a whole lot of anything. Maybe that, they played the Bears in that first week. How are the Bears really that bad? I'm not sure yet. I'm not ready to write off the Bears just yet. But 26th in total offense, 27th in total defense. And again, letting a Falcons team come back like they did last week, that I don't think is, a team that's going to be better than maybe 9-8.
Yeah, listen, I was watching the Falcons game last week, and they run an offense similar to my youth football team. I mean, seriously, it is so basic. They're handing the ball off. They're running the quarterback. They're throwing short bootlegs. I can't believe they're 2-0. Credit to them for winning those 2 games. But I'm with you. I thought this was the Saints division easy before the season. And I know there's 3 2-0 teams, but I got to be honest, I'm feeling better about the bet now than I was in August. I just think they're the best team. I'm not high on this Packers team at all. I see a lot of holes, especially Aaron Jones is their Swiss Army knife. We'll see if he plays. But the thing that's disappointed me with Green Bay the last 2 years, where's the defense? Their defense is supposed to be a strength of the team. And like you said, they're letting the Falcons go through them like they're like warm butter, like knife through butter. I'm not high on this Packers team. And that's why I like the Saints. I agree with you and Jimmy the Nose or Joey the Nose that the wrong team is favored here.
And look, I don't care if it's 2-game stretch or not. You're talking about being 30th in run defense, even though if that is only over a 2-game stretch. I mean, there's only 2 teams worse than you. I mean, that's not, you got to figure out a way to stop the run. Will the Saints be able to take advantage of that? Mark Satanovich writes, Kendra Miller has got to step up. Absolutely, he does. And ask, will the Saints sign a free agent offensive lineman, Lyle Collins, former LSU offensive tackle, Lyle Collins? I kind of don't think so because I know this team and I know how they work. They're just going to keep on being stubborn at least for a little while. But, one thing that I've talked about over and over again, and we talked about in pre-production, the Saints need help at left tackle. I mean, Trevor Penning is getting destroyed. If you want to find the biggest negative, and maybe the only negative right now, besides the lack of a running game, they have not been able to do anything on the left side of the line, and they've got to find a way to protect Derek Carr's blind side.
No, I agree 100%. You had mentioned this, my kids play offensive line, so I love watching the line. And when you mentioned this a couple weeks ago, I started really focusing. I mean, you talk about getting beat. I mean, good God almighty, he is getting destroyed. That's my one worry. Listen, Taysom Hill's good. He comes in, does some things, but Derek Carr, you don't want him getting hurt. I just worry about that position is really their biggest weakness through 2 games.
There's no doubt about it. Hey, Aaron's got some breaking news for us. He says the Saints just signed Zion Williamson to play tight end. Hey, why not? Ruben wants to know, is it going to be snowy in Lambeau Field? I guess they've had snow in September before, but the weather is actually perfect, all kidding aside. It's supposed to be 68 degrees and perfect in Lambeau Field. Maybe just a little bit of wind. Eddie Arnold, man, Saints are hard-headed at left tackle. They're giving their first round draft pick as many chances they can get, but at some point you got to stop just switching people over there and putting a fullback on that side of the line. You actually have to get someone who can protect. Aaron's in the house. He says, "Who dat?" Lastly, before we move on from this game, what is the key? I guess it sounds like we both like the Saints in this game, but at plus 1.5. I think it's, we've both said wrong team favored. I agree. What is the key to this game for both teams?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention is you mentioned Lambeau Field. Listen, Lambeau Field's a lot tougher to play in when you go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. All right. I'm an old guy. I remember the pre-Brett Favre days. Everybody went into Lambeau Field and won. So I think Lambeau Field becomes a little bit easier to play in now that they don't have a future Hall of Fame quarterback. But for me, it's the Saints defensive front. I think if the Saints control this game on the defensive line and they don't allow whichever running back is in there to get going, I think Jordan Love has a tough day. Again, it's defense. I think 20 points or less, they hold the Packers and they end up winning. It might not be pretty. The Saints aren't winning pretty, but they get the job done.
Is it just a coincidence you got a green background back there? I mean, you look like you're in like Packers headquarters back there. Is that just?
Hey, this is what the people sent me. This is what we got here. What do you like on the total here, Jim?
Always blaming the man. Always blaming. I actually like the under as well, and it's scary because the Saints have played two kind of defensive games in a row. So you that third game you kind of expect it maybe to be a little different, but I can't until I see something that proves differently. Again, that left side of the line really worries me. If I thought they were going to be better there, I'd say over, because I do think there will be a few more points scored in this game, but the total's a little bit higher than it's been for the previous two games. 42.5 is the highest that the Saints have seen all year long, which isn't that high. So it'll be, I'm looking forward to seeing what it'll be next week when they play another struggling team, even though they're 2-0. It's not like the Bucs have lit the world on fire scoring points, especially on offense. They've got some defensive points as well. But I like the under if I were forced to take one. But more than the under, in this case, I like the spread. I'm going to take the Saints plus 1.5 here. Before we move on from NFL football, we'll talk more about the NFL when we get to our big bucks picks in about 10 or 12 minutes or so. But Giants, Niners, what do you have tonight? It seems so obvious, yet it doesn't.
Yeah, in games like this, Jim, I prefer to play player props. You know, it looks one-sided on paper, but the NFL, it's a little bit different than college. The Giants coming off an emotional win. This might be a game where the Niners aren't as focused as they have been the first couple of weeks. You're also looking at Brandon Ayuk with a shoulder injury. We're not sure how much he's going to play. I think to me it's Deebo Samuel, and I think George Kittle finally breaks out after two slower games. Look for George Kittle. I like over his props tonight.
You know what I hate? I hate that in fantasy football, I always hate when I have a Thursday player. Well, my main league, I lost Nick Chubb for the season in both my leagues. So I had to pick up Breida. So I got Breida playing tonight. I got Christian McCaffrey playing tonight, and I got Kittle. So I'll either be doing real well or real crappy when this week is over. Going to find out. I love the Giants tonight. I'm going to tell you why. Look, on a normal week, any other week, I would probably take the Niners here. First of all, 11 points. I don't like laying double digits in the NFL in the first place. But second of all, the Giants have stayed out on the West Coast. I think that it's going to help them. This is the one time, it doesn't happen often, but I think this is the one time where actually a short week benefits the Giants because they have stayed out there. They've only been out there a few days. They requested back-to-back West Coast games, actually. They wanted to get them over with. They wanted to stay out there. So they've asked for this. They got it. And getting the Niners, if you're going to get them, you might as well get them on a short week when you're already out there. So I think they'll actually keep it fairly close. And I say that. One thing I mentioned on Datitude, I heard this on the Boomer and Geo show this morning. Since 2015, teams that are playing on a Thursday night that are favored by double digits are 13-0 straight up and 8-5 against the spread. So that trend does not go in the favor of the Giants, but we're going to take them anyway. Ruben says Giants are his second team after the Saints. So he's I don't know if you're excited about the Giants after the comeback win or not excited. You're from New York. What's the word on the Giants and Jets? Are they ready to give up already?
Well, I can tell you one thing. Halftime of that Arizona game, my phone was blowing up with Giant fans ready to hang themselves. They were
I bet they were.
rough shape, and obviously Jets fans that they know what they have at quarterback now. You see Aaron Rodgers go down. There's nothing you can do. I mean, who are you going to get, right? That's going to be who Aaron Rodgers was. But I hate to see Giants fans happy. I'm a Cowboys fan myself, living in New York. So whenever Jets fans don't bother me as much because they haven't had as much success, but I always root for the Giants to lose, except when they play the 49ers, who are my most hated team in the NFL. So for me, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to bet a couple player props and look ahead to Saturday.
Well, with that being said, that's a perfect segue to, I'm sorry about this. I don't know if you heard this breaking news, but this is not a joke. Trayvon Diggs out for the season with a torn ACL. So that is a big blow to the Cowboys. And we'll see how much it affects them. I still think, look, they were my Super Bowl pick before I even knew you were going to be my new boss. They were my Super Bowl pick in the NFC. I still believe that. I still think they're the best team in the NFC. They have been snake bit. They've got to get past some things. We'll see if it happens. Let's move on to college football. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about, in fact, we're not going to spend any time talking about Tulane this week because they're playing Nichols. They should win easily. There's not even a line on the game. So we're not going to talk about Tulane Nichols. We'll be back to talking about Tulane next week. But we have to talk about LSU. We got some graphics here on the screen because I went and got SEC rankings. Remember, 14 teams in the SEC. So there you go, from 1 to 14. It's good for LSU against the Arkansas offense, the Arkansas defense, but not so good defense against offense. I don't know what to expect here, but I think, Thomas, with LSU's familiarity, and I put it in the headline, against KJ Jefferson, and they have played him before, I think that helps LSU. An 18-point, if it's actually down to 17.5, did not fix that. LSU is a 17.5-point favorite against Arkansas right now.
Yeah, I'm 17.5 at Caesars. I wrote this game up. It'll be up on Saturday morning for our site. It's interesting. I think that game against BYU is a little bit misleading. Arkansas held them to 287 yards, 4.9 yards per play. It was 14 penalties. It was turnovers. It was sacks. They're going to need to clean that up if they're going to want to compete with LSU. I do think this is a bit of a dangerous game for LSU. LSU's won 7 out of 10 straight up, but Arkansas has covered 6 of those games. So they typically play them pretty tough. And as you mentioned in the pre-production meeting, Jim, they had the game against Mississippi State, which I don't know if it was a big game, but after losing to Florida State, you want to make a statement in your first SEC game. Then you got Ole Miss next week. Arkansas plays better as an underdog. And the one thing that worries me about this game is a backdoor cover, because I think LSU is about 14 to 21 points better than Arkansas, but in the fourth quarter, they start laying back a little bit. So it's an interesting game. I don't love it either way, but I would lean taking the points.
I'm with you on the fact of I don't love it either, and it's not one I'm going to run to the window and bet. And I probably won't bet it at all. If I had to take one, I would take LSU because I think that with Ole Miss coming in, they're going to Ole Miss. With playing Ole Miss next week and knowing KJ Jefferson, I think they have to win this one big. I think they need to get on a roll. I think Brian Kelly knows that they need to get on a roll. Also think the factor of Greg Brooks, the safety whom I covered in high school at West Jefferson, who had a surgery earlier this week to remove a brain tumor. I think they're going to rally around that. I really do. I think that team is going to rally around the Greg Brooks effect, and I think he'll be rooting them on, obviously, as hard as anyone. And we'll see if that has any effect. I don't expect LSU to come out flat. I do like the fact, we talked about in pre-production also as well, playing at 6 o'clock instead of playing, last week they played in the morning. It didn't affect them last week. At home at night at Tiger Stadium, it'll be a lot of fun. It will be loud, that's for sure. All right, before we get to the big bucks segment, we got to talk about the big weekend. Man, you want to talk about high-profile games in college football, Thomas. This might be one of the big weeks. I had so many games to talk about. We had to put Ole Miss, Alabama. We had to leave it up in the top section there. Alabama, 6.5-point favorite against Ole Miss, but you got Florida State against Clemson, and that game is at least 2 big bucks and coming up in a little bit. Florida State against Clemson. We got Colorado. Coach Prime is a 21-point dog at Oregon. We also got Ohio State playing Notre Dame, and where the Buckeyes are a 3-point favorite on Saturday night.
Yeah, as I said in the pre-production meeting, Jim, I'm moving around youth football games so I can get done by noon Eastern time. I'm not moving this Saturday once these games start. Listen, I know this is a pros versus Joes game. FSU, the Joes are going to be on it. Clemson, no home underdog pros. But something I noticed last year about Clemson, and we saw it against Duke, where's the talent? Like,
Yeah.
where's the talent at receiver? Where's the talent in the secondary? Where's the NFL defensive line? I don't care ever what happens the previous week in college. These are 18 and 19-year-old kids. There's no doubt in my mind that Florida State's been waiting for this game for a year after hyping it up last year, getting beaten pretty easily at home. They were looking ahead last week. I know they were. If they play Boston College for the national championship, they'll beat them by 50. So I think Florida State not only wins, I think they win big in Clemson, and there's more pressure on Dabo.
I'm with you. I think I said another thing I said before the season. I said that Florida State could be one of the top 4 teams in the country. I've changed my mind. I think they are the best team in the country. I think they're better than Georgia. That's how good I think they are. So LSU fans who were all poo-pooing on their Tigers after that game, I don't think they realized how good of a team that they were playing. So maybe LSU isn't as bad as everybody thought they were. And we'll find out because we know that Jaden Daniels could be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Florida State, I think they're very well coached. Nothing against Dabo Swinney. I love him. I think Clemson obviously has been great in the past. I just think it's Florida State's time to shine. They win this one, I think they very well are going to run the table, even if they have to play Clemson again in the ACC championship game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. As far as Coach Prime in Oregon, I think this is where the undefeated streak comes to an end, Thomas. However, I am not as impressed with Oregon as a lot of people on our staff are. I think it will be closer than people think. Uncle Big Nick took Oregon, but he's picked against Coach Prime all year long so far. I'm going to take the Buffs here. I think they're going to keep it to within 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, this is a weird one. I wasn't expecting Oregon to be 21 a couple weeks ago.
Neither was I.
Yeah, and obviously when you lose Travis Hunter, you lose 2 starters. That's the only player in the country that you lose 2 positions in one. I think that has to do with the line a little bit. Obviously, Oregon has owned this series. They've won 8 of 9, covered 7 of those, and the average spread in those games is almost 30 points, and they still covered them. So this is a different Colorado team. I think they fight for a while, but where I think they end up wearing down is defensively. They give up over 30 points a game. Oregon comes in averaging 55. I know they've played a couple of cupcakes, but I think the Oregon offensive line wears them down in the second half.
Ohio State and Notre Dame. I don't really have a great feel for this one. If you put my feet to the fire and say you got to pick one, probably take the Buckeyes because I'm not that impressed with Notre Dame. I just, I want to see what happens here. I know it's Ohio State's on the road here. I know it's a non-conference game, which is a really big, obviously marquee non-conference game. I'm just not impressed with what I've seen from Notre Dame thus far.
Yeah, this is one of my plays coming up.
All right, then we'll save it then. We'll
save it for the big bucks.
We'll save it. All right, and then lastly, Ole Miss at Alabama. That's a 2:30 game. Alabama's a 6.5-point favorite. Look, I've said it a bunch of times. I think Lane Kiffin is one of the most overrated coaches on the planet. And I think that Mr. Saban is probably a little pissed off, and he's looking forward, let Milroe go in there and do his thing. I've said that I think Alabama's going to lose 3, maybe 4 games this season. This ain't one of them. Alabama, I think, is going to come out strong, and I think they win this game by a couple touchdowns going away.
Yeah, this is another one. This is probably my favorite play of the week, so we'll talk about this in big bucks. But let's just say the word value doesn't always apply to the underdog.
All right, well, let's bring in our cohorts here. See if I can remember how to get them all on one same screen. And that's probably not it. Well, maybe it is. Let's see. There's Gabe. And there's Spencer. That is how you do it. What's going on, gentlemen? I did it. One try, the first try. All right, we're getting it. All right, we're gonna go to big bucks. We're gonna show last week's results, and then we're gonna go in our order. Our order of picks this week is from worst to first. It'll be Spencer. Let's just show it. It'll be Spencer. It'll be me. Then it'll be Gabe, and then Thomas. That's how we're gonna go. It was real close in the top 3. Guru, it wasn't the best week for you. You got bailed out by Saints Panthers under. We both like that. We talked about it this past weekend. I had 3 in the middle. All my plays were the same. Again, And I told you I would tell you why it happened this way. I was too lazy to type in teaser and make it work graphically. So I said, you know what? I'll just take the Patriots. Well, that cost me a pick. Don't be lazy. Make the right damn pick. I'd have been 4-1 here too. Gabe had a great week. His only big loss was the Colorado. He wasn't believing in Coach Prime. He was listening too much to Uncle Big Nick. And then Thomas, he had a good week except for just wouldn't believe that Cincinnati couldn't do it again.
I believe now.
We'll see what happens now. All right, let's get to it. First one is Spencer the Guru. You got your picks. Give me I did not have time to do a timer. We each have 2 minutes. Yours starts right now.
For sure. Yeah, I got Florida State. I'm with Thomas and Jim on that. I think Florida State wins this by well over 2. I'll definitely take the -2 on that. I'm really a believer in Jordan Travis and that receiving core. I think they're going to run it up because Kate Klubnik just has not shown me nearly enough for me to believe that Clemson's going to keep up there. So that's my best bet. Also like this teaser here that I cooked up. The Bills -0.5 over the Commanders and the Cowboys -6 over Arizona. The Cowboys, I know they've looked really good to start, but I think the Cardinals might keep that thing close. I'm not really comfortable laying the 12, but I'll lay the 6, though. I don't see any way that Arizona comes within that amount. And then Buffalo, they're going to find a way against the Commanders. The Commanders are 2-0, but that's a fluke. Josh Allen and the Bills will figure that out. Then I got an upset special for y'all, Sean Payton's Broncos. I think they get off the schneid this week. Got them +235 on the money line over the Dolphins. Tua's looked good so far, but without Jalen Waddle, it's looking like Jalen Waddle is going to be out with a concussion. I think that Miami offense comes back to earth this week, and I think Sean Payton finds a way. I know Russ has looked rough, but he can still sling it, and I think Sean Payton's going to find a way to get the Broncos in the win column there. And then I got a couple more there for y'all, the Bears, Chiefs over, and Michigan as a chalk favorite over Rutgers.
By the way that our totals work, we start out with $1,000. We start out with 1,000 big bucks. And so obviously our total goes either up. You'll be in green if you're over 1,000. You'll be in red if you're not. So we give the Guru some inspiration to get out of red. We don't want to be in red. So I'll put it on red on purpose. Maybe they'll get him fired up to get out of that red. You're going to have a good week.
Hey, it's 1 week. It's 1 week. We're going to shake back. Let
me tell you why I think the Guru might have a good week. That's really bold with that Broncos money line pick. But when we move to my picks, we see the Broncos is one of my picks. I like them 6.5 over the Dolphins. I know I'm being stubborn, but I'm not sold on with 2 in the Dolphins. We'll see how that goes. And I think that Sean Payton, I don't usually love desperation, but if the Broncos are going to do anything, if they're going to do anything this season, they got to get off the schneid. You go 0-3, you're donezo. You are done if you go 0-3. My favorite pick this week, it's part of what Spencer was talking about. I love the teaser involving Buffalo. They basically just have to win against Washington. To me, that's like a free leg of a teaser. If you never played a teaser before, basically you get 6 points as a gift for 2 picks, but you got to win both of them to win, and it costs -120 to play. I also like Baltimore moving them from 7.5 to 1.5. That is my big teaser of the week, which I've done fairly well with. And then my other picks here, you can see them on the screen. I really like the Eagles -5 over the Buccaneers on Monday night. I think Philadelphia is immensely better than Tampa Bay. I think that 2-0 is a fluke. Philadelphia, meanwhile, has yet to put together a full game. Like them this week, and we'll see how that rolls. And by the way, Panthers-Seahawks, for those of you who don't remember, Zach Ewing, that's the game that he basically won $100,000 on last year. So we're going to roll with it again. We think the Panthers go out to Seattle, and I think they win it straight up, but that's supposed to be +6, by the way, not -6. I don't know how to type. I had too much going on. It's Panthers +6 over Seattle, not -6. So there you go. Gabe, you're up.
First one I got, obviously, Patriots money line over the Jets. They haven't lost to the Jets since 2015 in their last 0-3 start. I was still in diapers. So I know, Jim, you said that, you don't necessarily love teams and have to win spots, but the Patriots, almost have to win this game. Zach Wilson had 3 interceptions in one game against the Patriots last year. I just don't think he's enough to get it done against a good Patriots defense. My next play, Jaden Daniels under 61.5 rushing yards. Arkansas, as you guys put it up earlier, has one of the best defenses in the SEC. Number 4 rush defense in the country. Number 11 in total defense. And they're also number 3 in the country in tackles for loss. Jaden Daniels put up his worst rushing performance in an LSU shirt against a team not named Georgia last year against Arkansas. I just think 61.5 is too many rushing yards for a quarterback, even though he's one of the best dual threats in the country. I think they'll torch him through the air. I have Clemson over Florida State. I said it when Clemson lost to Duke. College football is wacky, especially the ACC that cannibalizes itself every year, just like the Pac-12. I think Florida State is getting a bit too much credit. I think LSU played poorly, more so than Florida State did very well in week 1. And Clemson hasn't lost this game since 2014. So they haven't also won in the fake Death Valley since 2013. Clemson hasn't started 0-2 in the ACC in almost 15 years. I like trends. So give me Clemson here in the upset special. Elsewhere, I like Sam Houston State, Houston under 37. Sam Houston State, one of the best defenses in the country, really underrated. And I have, going with you, Jim, Eagles -5 over Buccaneers.
I think that might be free money. I don't know. We'll have to see. Obviously, it's free money until you lose it, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of free money, here's Thomas is going to give us free money. He's leading the week, plus 39 for the week. He had a big money line bet last week. Let's see if he has another one. What do you got this week?
Yeah, well, I like your guys' Broncos pick. That just missed my card. Listen, my best bet of the week is Alabama. This look-ahead line this summer was 15.5. Now it's 6.5. I agree with Jim 100%. I'm not sold on Alabama as a national championship contender. This is a game where they just line up, Milroe, run the ball, and just overpower Ole Miss. I'm not big on Ole Miss. I think this is value with Alabama. I know Jim isn't high on the Chargers. I'm not necessarily either, but this is more of an anti-Vikings pick. The offensive line is struggling so badly, and the Chargers could be 2-0. If they were, they're probably -3 here. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Chargers finally win one, but I'm with Jim. The coach, no good. My upset special last week, I hit with the Gators, winning outright. This isn't a big one, but I like Notre Dame a lot in this game. I was hoping the line would be a little bit higher. Ohio State struggled earlier in the year. Notre Dame's look good, so it's at 3. But I think Notre Dame's defense is for real. Ohio State still question marks at quarterback. I think it shows up on the road. Listen, I know a lot of people I respect are on Clemson. I'm going against Joey the Nose and the guys, though, in the desert. I think FSU takes this team out behind the woodshed on Saturday. I like FSU, and I like them big. And then I'm going. Listen, this is a pure Louisiana plays Buffalo. Jim, you misspelled Buffalo.
That's the second week I've screwed something up on your graphic.
Well, but credit to you. Nevada, there's not much difference between Nevada and Buffalo. They're
I don't know.
Two of the worst teams in Division I. This is a pure Buffalo fade. That program is in the toilet. They're down. I'm going with the guru, the guru's alma mater of Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns get it done, and they win easily.
They'll always be USL to me. So the University of Southwestern Louisiana. Guru, Gabe, we will see you next Thursday. May your weekend be profitable, boys. All right. We're going to, before we go, I would like to ask, and I forgot to mention earlier, Thomas, that if we would ask kindly that our friends subscribe to our Bayou Bets YouTube channel, because, you get notifications every time we go in the air with anything, whether it be Datitude Live, whether it be Bayou Bets. You're going to get notified. So we ask very kindly to go subscribe. It only takes like 5 seconds, right?
Yeah, no, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to bet.NOLA.com. Follow us on all our social media accounts. Listen, it's free money, baby. Jim,
free
8
money.
and 2. All you got to do is follow us and you get richer. I mean, you can't beat that, Jim.
Free
and don't
money.
forget, Caesar Sportsbook, our partner. Great lines. Go place your bets there this weekend.
Also, Thomas, before we go off the air, remind them. Well, don't remind them. You can remind me too. We have a couple of new deals coming up with our partners at Caesars. They're offering some new deals to all of our readers and listeners. If you just listen, you can get some deals. But that's also, I don't know if they're both active yet, but they're both coming up.
Yeah, yep. There's going to be a couple of odds boosts this week involving LSU, involving Colorado. Listen, there's one that I really like. It's LSU, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and one other team to win outright. and that's boosted this week. I think that's a good one. So they got new sign-up bonuses. They got new promos. They got odds boosts. Check them out this weekend when you're betting your games.
I'll put Thomas on the spot there. So we will have a listing of this when I put the recap up in just about 15 minutes.
Oh, I got them. You want the odds?
Yeah,
boost?
go ahead. Put them up.
Yeah, it's LSU, Ole Miss, with Missouri, and South Carolina all to win. That's going to be boosted up to plus $625.
Okay.
I like that one. I think all those teams win. And the other one is the Colorado odds boost. Colorado, Michigan State, and BYU each to cover 13.5 points. That's going to be boosted up to 575, plus 575 on that one.
Sounds good. Again, I will put a link to all this in our recap, which will be on bet.NOLA.com around 5 o'clock this afternoon. Reminder, tomorrow morning, Datitude, our podcast, episode number 170. It's hard to believe we're that far into this, but Larry Holder, the Athletic, will join me as he does every Friday morning live on all of these same bet.NOLA.com and NOLA.com stations. We'll be doing more on a Saints-Packers preview. We'll get his idea, his thoughts, his pick on who he likes in Saints-Packers, and we'll also be previewing Week 3 in the NFL and some of Larry's games to watch over the course of the weekend. I know I'm going to be watching. You're going to be watching. And you're going to come back next Monday for another episode of Bayou Bets. Spencer and I will be together. It'll be a lot of fun. Hope you have a great weekend. For Thomas Casale, for Zoe Collins-Rath, for Gabe Henderson, for Spencer, the Guru Urquhart. I'm not smart enough. I had to go in order that they are on my screen. I am Jim Derry. I can read my own name. We will see you tomorrow on Datitude and next Monday on Bayou Bets. Have a great weekend, everybody.